Hello guys, today I'll talk about the disease called white pine blister rust caused by Cronartium ribicola. This pathogen is part of the fungal group of the basidiomycetes. And this pathogen has a microcycle because it has more than one host, the white pine and ribes spp, and also it produces 5 types of spores in the life cycle. I try to adjust the life cycle of this pathogen in a disease cycle, and even if it's not the best way to explain it, it could help us to make a summary. So here is the diagram of the disease cycle with the important steps: survival, primary inoculum, dispersal, infection curve, and colonization. So I'll start with the primary inoculum, and at the end of the presentation, I'll talk about the survival. So the basidiospores is, the basidiospore is the primary inoculum that initiate the infection through pine needle stomata. For example, we can see that here, through needle stomata in full. And the wind and growing are the dispersal weight of these fungi. So the mycelium of the fungi grows from the needles into the branches. And then we will have the pycnia. The pycnia are composed of pycniospores, and these pycniospores will develop, the pycnia will develop at conker margins in the spring after 1 or 2 years. That's like the colonization, the pycniospores. And then a process called plasmogamy will happen, which involve the pycniospores and receptive hyphae. This step leads to the formation of the dikaryotic mycelium, and from the dikaryotic mycelium, iospores will be produced. The iospores. So we can see that here. The iospores are produced in spring. These iospores are dikaryotic spores produced in the iasia. So until now, we have, I mentioned 3 types of spores: the basidiospores, the pycniospores, and the iospores. And it's time to talk about what happens in the second host, ribes spp. So these iospores will be the primary inoculum in the second host and are weight-borne to the ribes spp. So the dispersal also will be the wind. And the germinating iospore established the dikaryotic mycelium in leaves. So these iospores will grow in the leaves of ribes spp. This mycelium produces another dikaryotic spores, the urediniospores. And these urediniospores are the only rust spore that can cause new infections, but in ribes spp. So then teliospores in talia are produced from the same dikaryotic mycelium that produce the urediniospores. These, the teliospores, are considered the survival spores of rust fungi, and later teliospores form and germinate in the fall to produce basidiospores that can infect the pine again. and the cycle continue again. So let's talk about the survival of the pathogen. This pathogen overwinters mostly as mycelium in infected wine pines and ribs, SPP, but also the teliospore can overwinter, and the uredinospore can also overwinter in ribs SPP. Um, in this case, I put the squares with the numbers with the steps that can help to guide us. The number 1 is for the first host, and the number 2 is for the second host. Here is a nice figure about about the microcyclic rust life cycle. It's like another good way to understand how all these steps happened. This is the bibliography. I got good information from these two books, and I used information to make this presentation. Thank you.